All right, here we go. Today we have Dynzell Sigers, who went through 4 limb-lengthening operations, costing over $80,000, which resulted in increasing his height from 5'5" to over 6 feet tall. Welcome to Vlad TV.
Glad to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. Very interesting story.
Yeah,
it's a very interesting story, and I'm going to get to that, but I want to start in the very beginning. So you grew up in Southside Chicago?
I did.
Okay. Oldest of 6 kids?
Yeah, I am.
And it was a fairly crazy environment.
It was pretty tough coming up.
Right. Your house got shot up twice.
Couple times, yeah.
Right. And you actually got shot at yourself.
Couple times,
but never hit.
No. Unfortunately, I was stabbed in the face at one point in time when I was younger, but I've never been actually shot.
You've been stabbed in the face?
Yeah.
What was that about?
It's a story for another day. It was a lot going on. Just caught up in different things at that time of my life. I was back and forth between Chicago and Atlanta coming up, and just a lot of different things were going on in life, living in different environments. But yeah.
Okay, and around 12 years old, you moved to Georgia?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, with your mom?
I did.
You got to meet other siblings and so forth?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, but you started getting in trouble out there?
I did, unfortunately, yes.
Okay, you got involved in some gangs, and that resulted in some juvenile time?
It did.
Over what?
Just, unfortunately, I had to get, at that time in my life, I got involved with a few different things for mainly protection, and I didn't really know another way at the time, so yeah, I was, obviously, it started off with protection and then escalated to me involving myself in other different things, that got me arrested. Some grand theft auto, some, breaking in, things like that. Nothing too crazy, but definitely just was on the wrong path at that time in my life.
Now, you had a lengthy stint at one point in juvenile. What was the longest time you did?
I don't recall the actual longest time. I just remember that one was because before I had never actually been sat down. It would just be like maybe a few days, maybe a week, and then I end up going to court and getting released or whatever. And the last time I went was the last time I had ever been locked up at that time. And I told myself, like, this is the time to turn my life around because I'm obviously seeing where I'm going. Because the judge actually told me, my PO helped me out because I was on probation when I got locked up. The judge actually told me if he saw me again, I wasn't going home. So that was the point of time where I was like, okay, it's time to start trying to look in a different direction. But I knew it wasn't the place for me.
Okay. Now, you turn 18. Did you graduate high school?
I did.
Okay. And you ended up joining the Navy at one point?
I did.
Like how long after high school?
Immediately.
Immediately?
So my PO actually helped me out a lot. I told her that if she gave me a chance, because I was supposed to be on probation for some time and then there was some other things going on. I got on house arrest. It was a lot going on. So I told her if she was willing to give me a chance, I would turn my entire life around. And she told me if I could prove it to her, like stay out of trouble, get a job, all these different things, she would help me out. So I did that. I maintained a steady job. I stayed out of trouble. I separated myself from a lot of things that I was involved in. And she wrote a letter to the judge. The judge sealed my record, and then they helped me like get into the military. So I actually left for the military at 19.
Okay, so if the record wasn't sealed, would the military take you?
Not at that time, they wouldn't have, but I was blessed at that time because they ended up working with me. Like, they worked with me, they worked with my PO, and I had to get a few waivers and a few other things done because I did have felonies at that time. So, like I said, they worked with me, they worked with my PO, and they were able to get me into the military, and I just didn't look back from there.
Okay, so now you're in the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
And you're a combat medic?
I am.
So were you actually in war zones?
Well, I won't really get into that, but I was deployed a few times. Yeah.
Okay, so you actually had to basically fix people up that had been
Yeah.
shot and blown up and the whole nine?
I didn't see any, like, I didn't deal with anybody necessarily getting blown up or anything like that, but I did have some different experiences that I was exposed to while I was in.
Okay, what countries were you in?
I was a little bit of everywhere. I was a little bit everywhere at the time because I was on a MU. So we hit UAE, Dubai, Syria, Libya,
Oh, okay.
Romania. We went a lot of different places. So
Some of those spots are serious.
yeah, some of them serious. Some of them we was just having a good time.
Yeah. Okay. Now, at one point, you leave the military. How old are you at the time?
26, I believe. I think like 26ish or 25 or something like that. I think 26.
Okay. So you left the military and you were thinking about getting height surgery, but you were kind of in a dark place around that time.
Man, it was a lot going on. So it was a lot of different things going on. I took a bit of a dark turn when I got out. I fell back into old habits very fast, unexpectedly. And thought I was having fun at the time, but a little bit of fun turned into a lot of problems real fast. So yeah, I was in a dark place.
Alcohol played a role?
Man, look, it was a lot going on. I was pretty much smoking and drinking at that time in my life every day. I lost focus. I lost sight of everything that I had going on in life.
Drugs played a role as well. Hard drugs?
Nothing too crazy. No,
Okay.
nothing too crazy.
So you grew up 5'5", and at age 16, you started to research different ways to get taller.
Yeah.
And there are different ways to do it besides surgery, and you tried some of those ways, right?
Yeah, it was nothing too crazy. Only like when I needed them, like if I was going on a date or something, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna throw in some height and or something. Then I used to stretch and everything because I had scoliosis too. So I was already shorter than I was supposed to be because they said I was supposed to be like 5'9" or something like that.
Okay, so you put inserts in your shoes. And how much did that raise you up?
Not much, like an inch and a half, nothing crazy.
And you would decompress your spine?
Yes. So, well, that started later. That started as I got older because I started having back problems in the military.
Okay.
So that just went hand to hand. Like I said, I had scoliosis, then I had back problems in the military. So when I started using a decompression table, it would just help with my back pain. And the result was like maybe an inch of height in that same process.
And you had a spinal alignment?
Well, I had my scoliosis fixed pretty much.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So that was an operation just for
just
for the
to straighten me
scoliosis.
out. Yeah.
Okay, and there was a situation where you had a big crush on a girl.
That was overplayed. So it's funny because that's how it went viral. They used that story.
Okay.
So basically what happened is they asked, when I was doing a particular interview, this is the headline that went viral, but it was like a guy gets surgery because he got rejected by a girl for being too short. The funny thing is how that story actually worked out, like how it came about. I was asked, had I ever been rejected for being short? And I was like, well, there was one situation where this girl, I was crazy about her. I was in like 9th grade. She was in 12th grade, but she was in one of my classes. And I used to try to talk to her every day, every single day. And she would give me a little bit of time and attention, but nothing too serious. And there was this trend back when I was in high school where girls go up to guys and they tell them the reason they wouldn't date them. And her and a friend came up to me and they were just like, yeah, I'm too short and too young. And they laughed it off, I laughed it off, whatever. But she ended up giving me a chance later on when I was in like 11th grade and she was out of school. So I ended up getting her anyway. It just took me a couple years.
Did you feel like your height really played a role throughout your teens and your 20s in terms of women and so forth? Did you feel
I didn't even know I was short until that situation with her. I didn't know I had always been, because I hit my growth spurt very early. So I was the tallest, one of the taller people I knew in my peer group until like maybe 7th or 8th grade when everybody else started to shoot up. So I never really gave height thought until that girl told me, and then I'm like, oh shit, I'm short. I'm looking around, I'm like, oh, I never really noticed. But when it came to dealing with women, I never really cared about my height. The only time it really, really had an impact is if like I was in a club or something, because I'm like, all right, I feel like I look like a kid in here. Like, you can't really see me. You can't really, all you see is like just this short guy. But other than that, I didn't really have like an issue talking to women or all these different things. Like I said, it really, in clubs, I would just chill to myself. That wasn't really my thing anyway. I didn't really like clubbing, but whenever I went out with friends, like, I'm like, yeah, I just chill at the bar.
Well, you've said some things about taller men. You said taller men are more confident, better with women, have an easier time in life, more successful in the workplace, and get more respect.
So that's funny, I was reciting a lot of things that people were saying while I was in the center, you know what I mean? Because originally, when I went viral, I hated the story, but my team that I was working with told me it would be best to go with the story for relatability or being able to relate to others or all these different things. And against my better judgment, I played into all of it. Like, I played into the story, I played into all these different things, and I ended up realizing that I was creating an arena where I'm basically making it seem short men are obsolete or aren't as good as everyone else. So that's when I kind of pulled back. Like, that was never the agenda I wanted to push. To me, it was most of it was a joke. Like, in a sense, like, this whole thing was pretty much fun for me. Like the surgery, the process, finding myself again, getting back on track, getting my mind back on track. It was fun.
Okay, so you start to research the whole procedure, and it's been around since the 1950s. And I guess the military used it when soldiers like got their leg blown off and needed
it came in for different uses. So the military, I used it, and then it was used for people with actual limb discrepancies, like people who actually had that were born with limb discrepancies.
One leg shorter than the other.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, because before they used to just give them that one big shoe.
Yeah, that little boot.
Yeah, exactly.
But even though it was around, a lot of people still weren't doing it because it was still a very undeveloped surgery and extremely excruciating. Like, if you've seen the devices they used to use, it's rough. It's rough.
Okay, so it started in the 1950s. Then around the 2000s, it got
became
bigger.
more cosmetic. Like, they started gearing it towards more cosmetic, opening up the door for people to do it just because.
Okay, so early 2000s starts to become cosmetic. And over the last 10 years, it started to get bigger. What made you decide to say, okay, I'm going to pull the trigger and actually do this?
So for me, one, I always hated being short. That was the one thing I didn't like about myself. I'm like, damn, if I was taller, that would be like a whole different world for me, right? I'm like, so I was always wanted to be taller. Obviously, like, if I'm putting insoles in my shoes or all these different things, I always wanted to be taller. But I'd say the biggest thing that made me pull the trigger, and I've actually kept this story mostly low-key, but the biggest thing that made me pull the trigger was I lost all self-respect for myself. Like, at that time in my life, like I said, I'm drinking, smoking every day, spending time with this girl that I was with at the time every day, sitting up, eating junk food every day. And I went from being a man in medical school, being in the military, having my own business, doing all these things for my life, having the life that I wanted, to all of a sudden just wasting my life. Like, just, that's very weak. That's weak mentality. That's a weak man. So I'm sitting there doing all this shit with her, and I'm like, And the crazy thing is, before I'd like lost respect for myself, the women around me lost respect for me. Like this woman used to like worship the ground I walk on. And then I noticed she started talking to me different. She started treating me different. And at first I didn't know what was going on. But I'm like, as I started to look in the mirror, I ain't even like the man I saw anymore. I'm just...
Okay, so now you start looking into the surgeries. Now, to do it in the U.S. is more expensive.
A lot more expensive.
$150,000 for 2 surgeries. So that's $75,000 per surgery.
Well, it was actually 75 for upper leg and then like 90 for lower leg.
Oh, so like $165,000.
Yeah. So it was definitely more expensive.
So then you start looking at other countries. And Turkey, which is like the king of all surgeries, it seems.
Yeah.
How much did that cost?
In Turkey, it only came up to a little over 80,000. Like, and that's everything I had to do. I lived over there for 6 months. Yeah, it came up to a little over 80.
Okay. So now you got to cough up $80,000. Plus, well, I guess all the living expenses is covered for 6 months. So, but you still need some money.
Yeah.
Right? You know, you're telling me you left the military, you're not really working and so forth. How'd you come up with $80,000?
Well, one, I had money backed up. Like I had plenty of money backed up. I was doing a lot. Like I was very ambitious at that time, so I had plenty of money backed up. But when I was on that other dark path, I was into some other things. I was making money in a way that I didn't approve of, but you know what I mean? I don't know what I was going through, but yeah, I was making money in a different way.
Right. So you had $80,000.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. How did you feel like actually signing the form and sending over the money? Like, all right, now I'm actually, it's one thing to think about it.
I was excited.
You're excited?
Because for me, it was like this was a whole thing. Like this wasn't just a surgery. It was I'm turning my life back around because I ended up leaving the girl I was with. I ended up letting go the women that I was dealing with because I realized they weren't the women I wanted to deal with. Like they were pulling me back, and I lost all my ambition, all these other things. And it's not on them. That's on me. That's my fault. But I was excited because I started getting in the gym. I started reading. I started turning my life around, like getting back to who I wanted to be or who the man I was building up to be in the first place. So I was excited. The surgery was just part of all this. But of course, at first, part of me like thinking it's a scam. I'm like, man, I'm finna go over here and lose all my organs, man. I'm finna go over here and be out of, man, all this money. And then I didn't even think it was real. It didn't seem like possible. It didn't make sense.
Had you talked to someone who had already done it?
Nope.
So you're going in this thing raw.
Yep.
No diddy. Because usually when it comes to these types of surgeries, people usually will seek out someone they know. Oh, you know, I got my boobs done. I got a BBL. I got my hair done. What was it like? You know, so forth. You know,
most of the people that did it like were very incognito.
Right,
like,
they're quiet about it.
Yeah, like even if you go to the company, a lot of people wanted their face covered. Like so, most of the people that's done the surgery were very incognito. They didn't want anybody to know all these different things.
Okay, so you're going into a sort of an unknown process here. All right. So you put up $80,000, and you get the plane tickets to Istanbul, Turkey. You fly over there. You're 26 years old at the time.
26.
Right. You get there, and how soon after you get there does the surgery actually begin?
I got the surgery on my 27th birthday, so I flew out there on the 17th. And I got the surgery on the 21st and woke up the next day and on my birthday, like with all the devices on me and everything.